Hi, my name is Coach Christina, and I'm going to be showing you some cognitive games today. None of these games require movement. They only require for you to talk, and each game requires at least 2 players. These games are cognitive games, which means they're focused on your knowledge. And also, in this case, we will be testing a little bit of your creativity. All of the games are PE focused, but you can also replace the themes into your own themes that you think of for fun in your spare time. I'll be introducing these games in a slideshow format with my voice, which I know is not the most exciting thing, but you'll be able to pause the video anytime and play the game with the rules right in front of you. So it's a good reference in this way. So the first game is called 10 Questions. It's a lot like 20 Questions if you've ever played that game, and it requires 2 players. For each round of this game, you will together decide on one of 3 themes, either competitive sport, fitness/health, or equipment. Now, the reason why you need to pick a theme together is because one of you is going to choose a word or phrase within one of these themes. So I've given some examples here. For competitive sport, you can choose a type of sport like basketball, swimming, power soccer. For fitness and health, you can choose aspects of fitness and health, like, measurements such as heart rate. If you know any muscle groups, you can use those. And then you can also use activities, so things like weightlifting, yoga, other fitness activities that are not necessarily competitive sports. If you choose the equipment theme, you want to choose equipment that you maybe have used in the past when trying different sports out in class. Make the equipment specific to the sport. For instance, instead of just saying ball, or thinking of ball, I should say, you want to be thinking maybe basketball or a soccer ball. So let's say that you two have chosen a theme, and then one of you has chosen something within that theme. You want to keep it to yourself, keep it a secret, and the other player will be asking up to 10 questions to figure out what the initial player is thinking of. The player who's asking the questions should be careful to ask context questions over "is it blank?" So for instance, if the theme is equipment, the player who's asking the questions wants to ask something like, do you throw this type of equipment? Instead of asking something like, is it a baseball? If the person who's asking the questions figures out what the secret phrase or word is by the 10th question, then they win. If they don't, then the other player wins. And the winner gets to choose the next phrase or word, keep it a secret to themselves, and make sure to try each theme. So I want you to try equipment, fitness and health, and competitive sport. I picked these very specific themes so that the game isn't super complicated for the person who's asking the questions. If it was, any theme in the world, like, it could be anything, then it's really hard for the person who's asking the questions to figure out what exactly it might be, especially in 10 questions. But if you find that 10 questions is actually not enough for these specific themes, then you can try 20 questions. The next game is called Alphabet Chain, and for this game you can have 2 or more players. The first person to go is the one who had the most recent birthday. All the players want to think of and decide on a dare for the loser or a prize for the winners. And the person who had the most recent birthday gets to start off the alphabet chain. They will try to think of a PE, sport, or fitness-related word that starts with the letter A. Then the other player has to think of a PE-related word that starts with the letter B, and so on and so forth. So you will go like that in a circle if there's more than two of you, or back and forth if there's just two of you, until one person can't think of a word that starts with a certain letter. So let's say you get all the way to O, and you can't think of an O, like anything that starts with an O that's PE related. That first person who can't think of anything that goes with the letter that they're on loses the game. If you're having trouble thinking of some terminology that you can use for this game, think back to the themes that I mentioned in the 10 questions game. That should help re-spark some of your knowledge. Okay, this next game is a little more creative. It's called Who Would Win, and you could play with 2 or more players. This one has a little bit of a martial arts theme to it, which is a type of physical activity or sport. You can think of it as kind of an imaginary Mortal Kombat, if you've ever heard of that video game. All the players, silently in their heads, have to think of a character and an equipment piece that goes with the character. Get really creative with the type of character. So it could be, an animal or plant or a celebrity or something like that, but it could also be a cartoon character, an alien, but you have to describe it, or an animated object of some sort, like a lamp that has legs and arms. Make sure to describe the size as well. This is a very important part of the character. Then you want to choose an equipment piece that they're going to hold. So this could be something like a bat, or a tennis racket, or something like a shield or a jetpack, or some sort of object that has, some superpower. The equipment can be made of really anything. This is another part where you get to be super creative. So you can have like a tennis racket made of omelet or something. The weirder, the better. Because the weirdness is what makes this game really fun and really intense. Then everybody reveals their character with their equipment to each other. Then everybody pauses to think about maybe how their martial arts character might win in a fight against the other martial arts characters in the game. And one by one, each person is going to have 1 minute to explain to everyone else how their character would win in the fight. It's good to have a judge in this game, so if you do have 3 people, you might want to have just one person be the judge, and then the other 2 people be in the martial arts fight. Based off the explanations, the 1 minute explanations, you are going to decide who won the fight. So if this is just the 2 of you, you 2 have to decide on one of you to win that round. If it's a group, you can decide as a group. Like I said, it is good to have a judge. And you can even do a sort of voting system to decide who won. If it's just 2 of you, you want to do 3 rounds of this game, and best 2 out of 3 wins the overall martial arts match. If there is 3 or more players, and I wouldn't recommend playing with really any more than maybe 5 players, you're going to have the same amount of rounds as there are players. So if there's 4 players, you're going to have 4 rounds. And then if it is, let's say there's 4 players, if there's a 4-way tie, so each person won each round, you want to do 1 more round to see who wins that round. They are going to be the one who wins the game or the overall match. The next game is called Contact, and it requires at least 3 players. In this game, there's sort of a host player for each round. The host secretly picks a PE-themed word, and you can again reference the themes from the 10 questions game. And the host reveals the first letter to everybody. Only the first letter, doesn't say the word. After the first letter is revealed, the other players will try to guess words based on that first letter. The words have to start with that first letter. So, for instance, if the letter was T, they have to think of words that start with the letter T. The trick here is that the players who are trying to guess the word, they are only able to announce their guess in a sort of Jeopardy style way. So, as an example, let's say the first letter is T. Then the other players can ask something along the lines of, is it a big dinosaur that used to exist? Which implies the word T-Rex, right? And if the host kind of has an idea of what this person is hinting at, they will say no or yes based off of that question. Obviously, if the first letter is T and someone asks if it was a big dinosaur that used to exist, T-Rex is not really a part of PE-themed words. So the host would say, no, the word is not T-Rex. But let's say someone asks, oh, is it a racket sport? And the host is like, shoot, yeah, it is tennis. That was the word that I had in mind. Then the host changes so that host gives up their spot to the person who guessed the word correctly. There's a little twist to this game, however. The non-host's goal here is to guess the word, right? But it's not really easy to guess the word based off of the first letter, but you can have the host reveal the other letters. So let's go back to the T-Rex example for this one, okay? Here is how you have the host reveal letters. Let's say a non-host asked, is this a dinosaur that used to exist? Another non-host might right away know exactly what they're talking about. Another non-host in their head is like, oh, they're meaning T-Rex. Like they're saying T-Rex. They can immediately say, contact. Once that person says contact, they have 3 seconds to count down. So they go 3, 2, 1, and they say the word that's in both of their heads at the same time. And hopefully, in this situation, they would both say T-Rex. If they both say T-Rex, then the host has to reveal the second letter. Of course, if they end up saying different words, so if the person didn't actually get it right that the other non-host was thinking T-Rex, then they will have to keep guessing. They just have to let it go, and they still have one letter to base their guesses off of. Of course, as you reveal more and more letters, all of the guessed words from there on have to include those letters. So let's say the word is going to be tennis, like the actual word that the host chose was tennis. So let's say we're at TE, then all the words that are being guessed have to start with TE. So tetherball, for instance. This game sounds really complicated, but it's actually very simple at the core of it. It has some weird rules, like you can't really say any of the words that you're trying to guess. You kind of have to have this sort of cryptic messaging going on between everybody. But once you get it down, it's so fun and very easy. Just give it a try, give it one practice round, keep referring to the rules during that practice round, and you'll get it down. Okay, this last game is really simple, pretty short. Not that many rules, and you can play it with 2 or more players. It's called I'm Going to the Game. It's really similar to the game called I'm Going on a Picnic, if you've ever played that one. But of course, I had to give it a little PE twist. So you're going to pick a type of sport game that you're attending. So this could be anything from Olympics to a little baseball game. So once all the players have picked the game that they're going to, one player decides on a secret rule for the kind of items that can be brought to the game. This is all imaginary, of course. So some rules here can be items that, start with the letter B, or items that are red, or items that are no larger than a grocery bag. Of course, this rule is a secret, and this one player has to keep it to themselves. That same player then announces, I'm going to the, blank game, whatever game that you guys chose, and I'm bringing, and then they say the item that they chose in accordance with the rule that they have in mind, the secret rule. So let's say in this example, they thought of the rule of the item has to start with the letter B. They'll say, and I'm bringing a ball. Then it's the other player's job to figure out the rule. The way that they do this is by asking, can I bring blank to the game? And they keep just choosing different items to bring to the game. And the original player, the one that decided on the secret rule, has to say yes or no based off if that word fits the rule or not. So again, going back to that rule that says that you can only choose items that start with the letter B, someone might ask, can I bring a hat to the game? And the person that chose the secret rule, of course, has to say no, because that word, hat, does not start with the letter B. This game is really simple, but pretty challenging. It's not super easy for the other players to figure out that rule. So you can play this game for quite a while, and then of course when the secret rule is found out, then someone else can choose the next secret rule.